Hello, good evening and welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and those who identify otherwise for this great evening of motor racing here on the SSRI YouTube channel. Behind the cameras, as always, Grandpa Chris Hill, I'm Oliver Anderson, Mr. One of Oliver. Joining me in the commentary booth tonight will be Frank Hubb. Let's cut to commercials. Speaking of, hello Frank, how are you this evening?
I'm doing fine, Oliver, thanks. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, what a race we had last time out with the two Nissans of Michael Thomas and Tess Fredrickson dominating a little bit too much maybe at Watkins Glen for excitement's sakes. But what a closely packed pro split we have this season. It's basically up for grabs for anyone to take the top 5 in the championships. Great battling there in the silver category. As always, it's anyone's game. It's all about who's up there on the day. No favorites there. Anyone can really take that class. As we saw last season with the surprise champion of Bas van Millis coming up at the end of it. And at the AM category we saw a quite dominant drive from Rahiv Kalsi last time. Winning with by quite a margin, but a lot of drivers involved in the early crash, of course, back then. This time it is Suzuka, home track for the Nissans, home track for not a lot of the drivers I assume, but could be. How do you feel about this one, Frank?
Well, from what I can remember, it's a hard track, especially at the start with a lot of people in the first few corners. So I'm expecting, well, hopefully not the crash that we had last time, but definitely some exciting things going on in the first 7 corners, I guess.
Yeah, it is a track that is quite tricky to overtake on once the race starts settling in. With the 75-minute race this time around, the drivers don't have to take tires in the pit stops. Do you think that will come into play when we see the strategies fold out, or do you reckon that everyone will just take the tires at the halfway point?
To be honest, I don't know. I don't know exactly the tire degradation. I know there are a couple of corners that are quite hard on the tires. So it might be that it's wiser to do it, but I also would expect a few people to just try and risk it. But like I said, I have no idea on the actual degradation, so could be anyone's guess, which makes it nice anyway, right? It gives some options to people to try and steal something from the guys that are perhaps quick, and then if you look at Michael, he might be saying, okay, I eat my tires in the Nissan. I don't know how that car is actually performing on tires on this track as well. So he might need to take new tires, and then somebody that's just a bit away might decide, okay, I'm not doing it, just some fuel and that's it. And then you have a race coming back by Michael, I guess, which he did a couple of times anyway. So
yeah, the pit stop strategies will also be interesting this time around to see who opts for the track position and who stretches it a little bit. I reckon that most of the mid-engine cars at least could do this without changing the tires. I think the Nissans at least, they will probably want to take the tires, as those big heavy front engines will wear those front tires out quite a bit faster than the likes of the Ferraris and such. We might see the BMW drivers try the no tire strat as well this time out, as it's not that heavy on tire wear. The BMW, surprisingly, even though it looks quite large in the front and heavy, it does manage to maintain life in the tires quite nicely. But we have seen on this track before, once the tires go off, they really do start to struggle the drivers out here, especially through the first sector.
yeah, but also I think some of the later tracks, right? So the what is it, the 130R corner, which is a really hard corner on the tires if you take them full out. And that's one of the things I guess that might happen as well, track limits. There are a few corners that I can remember myself just eking out a bit too much on the curb, and it's very easy, I think, to get 3 track cuts here.
Oh, it really is. In both the 130 I mentioned before, the Degnas of course as well, where you can slip it in there, turn 1 and 2. It's a corner where we often see drivers just go a little bit wide there and don't lift off before re-entering the track. and of course Spoon. But I think Chris is ready for a track guide behind the cameras. Will you take us through, Frank?
Okay, so it's a track built by a Dutch guy as a Honda test track. So first we have the straight, and then you have at the end of it the first turn, which is actually 2 corners already. It's a hard braking and throw braking to try and keep it on the outside, and then it's gonna be bunching up here because it closes up a bit, and then we get to the famous S curves, which are like 5 corners in a row where you really need to try and take as much speed as you can, but especially in the first lap, this is going to be really hard with all the guys bunched together. Especially the last corners of these, that you need to slow down quite a bit, especially on this one, to get around on the exit, and then you have to start going on the throttle here in the Dunlop curve, which is actually the location where Jules Bianchi had his great accident. Then you get this little bit of straight, and then you go into the Degner curve, which is a hard one. You can try and keep a lot of speed, but it's difficult. So you might easily get to the outside here, a hard right in corner number 9. And then because this is a figure 8, you go under part of the track into turn 10, where you need to start braking immediately into the hairpin, turn 11, and then you go to the 200R curve, which is a really long full speed curve. And if you get a really good exit at the hairpin, this is where you can try and overtake to get into the spoon curve, which is then turn 13 and 14, and try and outbrake somebody. But it's hard because I think, from what I can remember of this corner as well, it's a really low grip corner, especially on the exit. I think it falls off a bit on camber, and then it's really difficult to get a good exit here. It's easy to get into the sand, and then this is also a really long straight, where if you do it well, you can really catch up. And then we get to the famous 130R corner, where you have to shift down perhaps one bit and then take it almost full speed as much as you can to the outside into the Casio triangle, which is this part where you really need to brake hard, and we will see overtake attempts there as well, and outbraking and overshooting the corner. That's famous as well. You can get into the pit as well, and then at the end of the straight, next to the starting line again.
Yeah, speaking of that pit entry, I actually once managed to Austin power a car on that pit entry by spinning it coming into the pit and had no way to reverse out of it. Just a fun fact there.
Oh yeah, I think I once spun trying to get in, and then just like frontally completely destroyed my car on the guards there as well. I just slightly misjudged that entry.
Well, you know what they say: if you can't drive, you commentate, and if you're really shit driving, you stay behind the cameras as well. So, maybe that's why we're all here tonight. Although we have no possibility of having a great life. Yes. It's all live. Just a kind reminder to the people in the YouTube chat. You're very welcome to ask in or write in any questions you have for us, or the racing series, or anything in general. Maybe the great questions of life, and we will try to answer them during the stream.
Yeah, and also if you want to see perhaps the viewpoint from a driver, then please mention that as well, so we can perhaps take a quick look and see how somebody's behaving on track. And then we can laugh about them. So that's always a good thing.
Let's mention that, but not do it. Great idea, Frank. Now we'll try and keep up with your favorite drivers out there as well as always. Chris, he knows how long we have until qualifying. Probably, maybe Frank as well.
Yeah, it's about 1 minute and 8 seconds for the waiting time before we start qualifying session.
Oh,
so we just made a bit of rain in the free practice, which I didn't think was going to happen with the settings that we have on the server. I wouldn't expect any rain, but let's see how it develops. So that would be fun.
When we expect no rain, we always get rain. When we expect the 24-hour race to be full of rain, we get absolutely none. That's how it usually goes. Also, a quick shout out to the LMU series that we have started running every other Wednesday.
So I think Quali is starting.
For interest, go to the Discord server that we have and go under LMU. the series are quite full at the minute, but you never know if people draw out, there could be room for you, as we actually do get live pictures from qualifying, with all the drivers trying to get out on track as early as possible to get as much room as possible as well for this qualifying. Do remember that overtaking is not looked nicely upon in qualifying, very frowned upon. You're not allowed to force your way through. If you're not on a hot lap, you have to give up the room for the car behind, of course. But if you're on a hot lap, you don't need to let anyone go through you, and that could be an issue here at Suzuka. We do sometimes see quite big pace gaps between the very top and the very bottom of the drivers. But let's just wait and see how that pans out here in qualifying.
Yeah, in practice we had like lap times. The quickest lap time I think was by Michael, about 2:00.15. So a flat 2 minutes. So really curious what the
that is
lap times
actually not that fast for Suzuka. We have seen lap times underneath 2 minutes. Although that is a long time ago, I think before the last bump, but it is possible to go that low here at Suzuka if you're really good.
Yeah, but the track is still not optimum, right? So it's still fast, and it was green, I think, even when he almost put that time in. So we still have some way to go to get the track to optimal conditions, and that will help in getting the faster lap times anyway. So
it sure does, and we do see Michael Thomas being the first one out on track. Maybe he used the strategy that I would normally use. Get first on the server, get the pit box closest to the exit to go out as soon as possible. That guarantees you at least one clean lap, and should be clean running from at least on your first stint here in qualifying. Interesting to see who will opt to go for 2 or even 3 runs in qualifying, and who takes the singular one. The bunching up, of course. Ooh, Thomas almost getting onto the grass. That looks like early run, as we go on board with the championship leader after one round.
Yeah, so this is I think these last 2 of the SS are quite hard corners, because you actually need to brake more, and you want to have a good entrance to this one to actually get the speed up. And then if you have your setup straight right, you can actually go full throttle from there. If you miss it just a bit, and that's the big part I think of Suzuka and the SS, is you can screw up in the SS just a really small bit, and you lose so much speed on the complete lap. So and then this is a very heartbreaking chicane.
Speaking of losing speed, we did see Michael Thomas being a little bit slidey there early on, but we can see how the car's handling. That is not a setup that you and we would run. I don't think any of us can set up a car so light, sort of, say, as it looks like that Michael Thomas have done. It looks like it's almost a pinpoint accuracy when driving, and the minimum of understeering, but a loose rear end, that is usually the downside to these kinds of setups, and we do see him sliding around a little bit here, but still not the greatest of...
That was cornering on throttle, right? As a prime example.
Yes, very good example. Does he lift?
Well, some people call it a lift.
Other people call it he's just going for it.
Really throwing the car around to get the most speed on the track. So
yes, but horrible exit there from the casual triangle. Those still early days in qualifying, as we get the first bank lap on the board from Thomas. 1:59.3.
Oh man, that's quick.
I reckon that we'll see lap times underneath the 59s this time around.
Yeah.
Vargas and von Liebenstein also with lap times on the board. Not that competitive early on, but we'll have to wait and see in qualifying, as we do expect the lap times to drop during this session. It's all bangers that's going on the board basically at the minute, just guaranteeing yourself a lap on the board, so you won't start completely last if anything goes wrong. We do expect Nart Cox to start from the back, as he usually does, trying to make his way through the field. That is an interesting strategy, of course, from Nart, who did a great recovery, a great drive from last to the top last time out. But yeah, he also did get a little bit lucky with the incidents, sort of, say, early on in the race, and got through that unscathed.
Yeah, but look at him last year. He had so much trouble with incidents where he was the victim. Is that and he tried it then as well. So he might as well do it like this, and now perhaps this year he has more luck, and it works this way. So would be fun though.
I highly doubt. That's usually the downside of starting out of a position compared to your speed level. You have to make moves, and people are slower than you, and they will be using different lines than you will, and that can cause some issues later on. Best placed Porsche at the minute, Brian Schickerman in the 911, number 911. Saying that as he drops to 7th as Kunt, and Wolf Garcia puts their lap times in early run. The orange Porsche, that is quite easy to see. I think that's Richardson ahead of him that's running with the Royal British Air Force-ish livery on that Mercedes. Might be some Germans. I think it's a bit awkward running that sort of livery on the car, and it's a great reference to some other songs that goes around in those parts of the world that we can't sing here. Mostly because we don't have the voices for singing.
Oh, you do a very nice ending song every time, Oliver, so...
I think you should join in with that this time around. Sim Spinkling in traffic issues coming through the Casio triangle. Second on the boards at the minute, but if this is an improvement, it could have been better, as he have to slow down a little bit coming into the Casio triangle there for the traffic up ahead of him as he crosses the line. And improves a little bit going into to third. But look at the gaps around. It's not that much of a spread so far. Looking down the field, Sim actually elects to continue to drive out on track, even though he is that close to drivers up ahead of him. That is a bit surprising. As Grover comes across the line, improving up to 9th position for the Ferrari driver, Slipstream Motorsports Team UK. The black 129 car he's in. Ooh. Not the greatest rejudge from the Mercedes there, but I think he managed to get out of that. As Grover plows on through the S's. The lone Bentley of Patrick Travers. Also quite fun livery there from Travers coming across the line. Not the greatest of first laps, he got in there, but second lap on the board for Travers. Jumping up to 22nd. Still behind some of the AIM drivers though.
Well, it was a 2-second improvement, so...
Well, you would expect that when you are 4 seconds down your first lap and you are in the semi-silver category. As Bas Van Mellis, the fan favorite out there, also one of my favorite liveries running this season, as we don't have the CBSR guys. Late on in the lap for him, 130R he goes through. Use a lot of that inside curbing there. Maybe it worked quite nicely for him. It looks like it through the Casio triangle. He goes running. This could look to be a little bit invalid maybe, but let's see as he comes across the line, 5.3 seconds behind. Will it count? Will it not? Let's have a look. Didn't count. Ooh, which means Bas must have been a naughty boy that time around. He will try one more time. He still got 11 minutes though to improve. Also shout-outs from the YouTube chat. Jan Barf cheering on Carl van Horn. And Stefan Hoffman, boo, where's the 101? Well, I'm here in the commentary booth, Stefan. And I'm not going to sing Baby Metal, maybe Frank will do that.
I have no idea what it is.
Oh, then you're in for a treat if you go onto YouTube later on, after the race, of course.
Sorry, gotta go, yeah.
The returning legend Dave Hedges in the 88 machine. First time back to proper league racing, last time out at Watkins Glen. Let's have a look how well he can perform this time around. He did seem a little bit rusty there, but we do expect him to find the pace of his glory days later on in this this season as it progresses through. Could be a candidate maybe for the silver championship if he finds some of that magic pace that he used to have.
He's two tenths up at the moment, so...
Yeah, not what I would call magic pace.
No, but still, 210s gets him
Oh,
like a couple of
His
positions.
team name is even Rusty. Love the detail. Love the detail.
The lap times are so close together is that if you go 210s up, you might end up 5 places higher or 6 places higher. So
Yeah, in many
not that bad.
situations, I don't think 5 places would be enough.
No, but still.
As we do see the aim drivers nearing the bottom part of the boards, as we would have expected before this race, as the rankings go from pro to silvers, and then the aims at the end. Identifiable in the timing board, with the pros being white number boards with black numbers, the silver drivers being the silver number boards with the white numbers, and the aims being the red number boards with the black numbers. Of course, a lot of time have gone into driver placement into these categories, and it usually stays as we have the pros on top, followed by silvers and aims. Sometimes we do, of course, have drivers that just seem to be way quicker than the category on some certain tracks, and not much that we can do about that, honestly. And that's just the different driving styles that might suit some of the tracks around.
Yeah, it also, of course, has to do a bit with the track that we do let them test on. That is the Barcelona track, where people have to do a pre-season test if they've not raced with us before. And that's a track that not everybody really likes or is good on, so...
Oh, but it's just so average, you know. It's just so damn average. Carl van Horn across the line for the first time with a timed lap. Into 25th position for the 13 car. From
Doing a big slide.
And that ends his first qualifying run. He was probably going for fresh tires. A little bit of fuel and going right back out there. Kelsey, who seemed so dominant in the first round, still in 32nd position this time around, with Van der Gun and De Bruyne ahead of him in the AM category. Yes, I'm doing the accents. I think I pronounced those quite nicely, wouldn't you say, Frank?
Yeah. It's Van der Kraan and De Bruyne, so it was more than good enough.
I would say just close enough.
Oh, there's a small crash.
A few of those if you're looking at the minimap. The quick explanation to the minimap will be obviously the track outmarked there. That's Michael de Gore with the wall. Or maybe he didn't hit the wall, but at least gone for a spin there in his Lexus. Quick explanation to the minimap. The dots in grey will be the drivers on a hot lap. Blue will be invalid laps. Yellow will be yellow flags. And of course, sometimes you'll see a white dot pop up as well. That just means that it's a very slow moving car. And De Bruyne actually does have supporters out there in the YouTube chat. Speaking of Lexi, Danny McCoffrin coming around, another manufacturer having home track advantage. Not that it seems to matter that much for the Lexi, as they are up into 12th position. Yes, there are multiple Lexus, so that must be Lexi. We discussed this last time out. If you missed the discussion, go back, watch the race. It is proven that it is Lexi, not Lexuses. And yes, Stefan, this is the Japanese shoulder. Although according to you, all tracks are the shoulder of whatever nation it is. Even Spa is the different version of the Belgium shoulder, of course. Just like that one time we had to do the Spa endurance and practice at shoulder for no reason. I reckon it was close enough just driving on a Belgium track. Getting familiar with the virtual cuisine, sort of say. Following Samuel von Liebenstein around. Oh, looks quick in the Honda as well.
Yeah, it was also on the practice. He was really quick. So.
Yeah, that's.
And it's a nice car because it's not driven that much. That it's actually there and doing well. It's really fun. So
it's just a really difficult car to drive, but once you get the hang of it, it is super quick and usually does have a super good pace. Not the best on tires though, as it does have a tendency to slide quite a bit, the Honda. Last time I drove the car was in a, was it 6 or 8 hour races on some in some endurance series some time ago. But lovely car nevertheless. And it is good to see different manufacturers represented. No Audis though this season.
No, there are no Audis. I'm just checking it out, but nope, not there.
I think that the Audis might have. Well, it's surprising. It is one of the more competitive cars out there, but also a little bit difficult one to drive as Sim comes across the line. We did see not the greatest run there through the Casio triangle that could have interfered a little bit with that, as we only have 4 minutes to go of qualifying, and Sim finds himself in traffic out there. I hope he's fuel for the last 2 laps. It is getting a little bit late to return to the pits and come out. It is still possible, as you just need about I would say 2 minutes 10 seconds from when you leave the pit to come around and start your lap. But you will be a little bit in the mercy of other drivers, whether or not that you can find room for yourself if you try that going out that late. Someone went off there in the foreground. A lot of smoke, or not smoke, dirt being picked up in the foreground after the previous pictures. Them through the Deckners. That was Regan Mitchell, who still have the opportunity to go for one more shot at this. Through the hairpin Sim goes. It is a corner where you can take a few different lines come race. That will not be too different pace-wise, of course. The obvious hitting the apex will usually be the strongest line, but going deep, early apex, late apex, many opportunities there. And it is also a place if your opposing driver doesn't get the greatest run through the Deckners and you get a semi-godly run, then you could try to dive them into the hairpin, of course.
Samuel van Liebenstein did a really quick lap. He's only 600 behind Michael Thomas, so he jumped to position 2.
That is fairly impressive from the Honda driver. Maybe for the second race in a row we'll have an all-Japanese front lockout. I don't think that we have ever had 2 of those in a row, as we have never even had 1 of them, I think. Or maybe for endurance we might actually have had some Honda lockouts for a brief period.
When it was OP.
Yes, for that season where, you know, the Red Bracket team, they were called something different according to their liveries, of course. They I think they had were part in a Honda front row lockout at Bathurst, of all crazy places for the Honda. You know, the season where they won the first 3 rounds and then were nowhere and ended up changing the Honda as it got BOP to the bottom of the car pile. The Honda that was disguised as the Master Chris is reminding us in the background. Yes, that Honda.
It was officially the Honda test track, so the Honda should be doing good here, right?
Well, of course it should be, but it should have been popped there. Traffic for Chris winning, which means qualifying is over for Chris winning. He will start at best possibility from 3rd position. All the drivers in the pits at the minute, they will not have enough time to go out and start a new flying lap. I think that's Sim Spenkeling. We see yellows for at the hairpin. He will return to garage as well, which means qualifying will be over for Sim, as he really risks it there by not just pressing the RTG button, as that could have been he could have caused issues on the rejoin. But good rejoin at least from Sim, from Dark Sky Racing, and he continues and we'll probably just try the pit entry one last time before the actual race. Nardcock still without lap time. I don't think that he will post a lap time in this qualifying session at all, as he wants to do that from back to the top sort of race, as he comes across the line with no time being set. So 42nd starting position there for Nardcocks. The rest of the drivers do have lap times. As time have run out, everyone coming across the line from this point on will finish their qualifying sessions. Michael Thomas improves on his fastest lap and goes up by 0.4 seconds, but Samuel van Liebenstein managed to start on a final lap before he did that. So one final shot for van Liebenstein there to beat out Michael Thomas for pole position.
He was a 10th up, lost it again, but now he's a 10th up again as well.
He
And
leads
lost
fourth.
it again. Yeah, so that's gonna be a hard one. Liam Walsh was 4 10ths up, so he jumped to position 3.
Yeah, good drop there from Walsh. Sometimes we see him nearing the middle of the pack and others nearing the front, the PSUK driver there. And I do think only Regan Mitchell could theoretically challenge for that top 3 out.
He's 0.9 up, so
as he comes across the line.
he's
third
now.
actually, speaking of
wow.
challenging for top 3. I think that's
Great
the
one.
top 3 locked out at least, but who starts on pole will still have to wait a short minute to see.
Oh, Samuel is now a 10th down, 2 10ths down, so it's gonna be hard for him.
Yeah, I think with somewhat certainty we can say that Michael Thomas goes on pole and
Yeah, expected as well.
Shillikans takes the silver class with I think it wasn't Kelly who took or Kelsey who took the aim, but you can see that on your fine screen. But this is a time where I would usually proclaim that we need some commercials so I can go out and get some fresh air. But now that we have you, Frank, then you can just talk for about 5 minutes. Isn't it wonderful?
Is that so?
Yes.
So what shall I talk about? No, it's
Probably run through the grid as you do have the app open. We can see the starting order from top to bottom, of course. And remember to put out the classes when you get to the class leaders.
Oh, is that so? Okay, first looking at the sessions. So first one, starting from the position number 1 is Michael Thomas in the Nissan. Then we have Samuel van Liebenstein in the Honda NSX GT3 Evo. And then 2 Ferraris on second row. First of all is Regan Mitchell and then Liam Walsh, who both did really nice last laps. And then we have the lockout by the 2 BMWs with Chris Vining and Nick Wargers. Then Sam Spankeling in the Lamborghini. Isn't that almost the only Lamborghini in the race today? I have no idea. Then Peter Vernier in the Ferrari again. We have the Nissan by Terje Fredriksen. Brian Scheckerman in the first Porsche. Then we have Ries Groter in the Ferrari and Maarten van der Kraan in the Ferrari and Andy King and Mick Schellekens in the Ferrari. And Mick Schellekens is then the first silver driver. After that, Burak Kunt on position number 15 in the BMW. Leonardo Wolf Garcia in the Mercedes AMG GT3 on position 16 as a pro driver. And then we have Dave Hedges on position 17 in the Ferrari. Danny McCutcheon in the Lexus in position number 18. In the, I think, yeah, this is the first McLaren Wouter Vrins, which is really nice from him in position number 19. Michael de Gore in the Lexus, the first one on position number 20. Andrew Richardson, I think, yeah, so that's, he's on position number 21. Patrick Wijsters in the BMW and Mark Conway in the BMW on position 22 and 23. Wouter Bijlsma on the McLaren on position 24. And then our first amateur, Ian van der Kraan in the Ferrari 296. Patrick Treffers on position 26 in the Bentley. So that's our first and only Bentley. Iridis Bartes on the number 27 in the Ferrari. Bas van Melis on position 28 in the BMW. Arjan van der Linde in the BMW on position 29. Karel van Hoorn on position 30. Stuart Wright on position 31 in the Ferrari. Max de Bruin in the Ferrari 296 GT3 as well, as is Ranjiv Kalsi. So those, I think, Ian on the position 25, and then Max, De Bruin, and Ranjiv are position 1, 2, and 3 for the amateurs. Then we have from Silvers, Koen Geens and Paolo Ambrosio in first McLaren, then the Porsche. And then Steve Parker, Schalke Vavat, both in the BMW. Then we get 3 McLarens in a row, Peter Bokland, Misha Melis, and Jelle Soens. And then Tom Ferries in the Mercedes AMG, and finally Nord Cox on position number 42 in the McLaren 720S GT3 Evo. So that was an interesting session. We still have 1 minute and 20 seconds to go, and no rain prediction on a track temperature of air temperature of 22 degrees and a track of 28. Although that doesn't really mean a lot. So looking at tire pressures, for example, if you've got a temperature of 1 sort of air degree higher, you need to lower your tire pressures with a .1 setting, and then the tire pressures will be okay for the race. That's one of the important things in ACC anyway, is that you get the decent tire pressures. I think there now should be sort of like in between 26 and 27 you should have the correct tire pressures, but
30 seconds.
I think most people will put them up a bit higher. Looking at the line or the list of the people, you will now also see behind every number or race number, you will see in orange, you will see the 1. This means for the 1 pit stop that we have today, and it's a pit stop where people don't need to change their tires. So that's going to be interesting to see how people are actually gonna do their pit stops.
They will have to take fuel when they come into the pits.
They will have to take fuel.
Speaking of, as the drivers now will start their formation lap, getting the MFDs set up with their pit stop strategies, just double checking that everything is as it is supposed to. Whether or not that you have multiple race strats, that could be an option for some drivers. I know that the top drivers, they will have prepared their MFDs, so they have a strategy 1, 2, 3, 4, and for different scenarios. Could be obviously strat 1 will be the one that you have prepared yourself for before the race for if everything goes to plan, but you might also have one with tire changes in if you didn't expect to do that, and
some damage because you hit someone and it's you need to make sure.
And we will see some people, even if they get damage early on, they will probably try and stay out on track at least until the well, I think you could need to go underneath 110 at this track before you can do on a full tank for most of the cars. Many of the cars will obviously only do about an hour 60 or an hour and 5 minutes around here, so that will be interesting to follow along. Nard Cox, of course, from the back of the grid. Once again, dangerous place to be on this track, but we'll have to wait and see. We have seen the crashes in turn 1 here before. Quite a few times, as that is a different tire warming strategy there from Nard. Just testing out the grass, seeing if that's okay and drivable as well. It looks like. And
that's a place to overtake, right?
I don't recommend it if you don't want to get penalized, of course, but you never know.
Yeah, but here I don't think it's not counted as an illegal pass as it is, I think, in LMU. So.
No, but reportable offense, of course, as we have the the stewarding team that will look into stuff after the race, of course, or maybe will on Thursday, more likely, but they will look into the incidents later on in the week. This is the time that I've always hated the most in races, going around on this formation lap. Everything is going through your mind, thinking about all the possibilities into turn 1 while you're trying to heat your tires, and we have seen drivers a long time ago, not that long ago, but we have seen drivers spitting out on the formation laps when they are trying to warm their rear tires a little bit too aggressively with the weaving and the low TC.
Did you do that with that? I always did it by just braking.
Oh yeah, I just did it for the shows running. But it is in ACC.
That's why you're a commentator now, yeah.
Well, I never crashed it on the formation lap though. But I would usually just run with the foot on the throttle and the other on the brake, adjusting until I get the heat that I wanted. And I'm looking out for the brake temperatures as well, of course, as those needs to be nice and hot as well going into turn 1 if you don't want to have a little bit increased braking distance, and that could cause some issues. We do see some wheels back there, Frank. Look at that.
Yeah,
Look
yeah.
at that.
And they all do it for the fans, right?
Of course, of course. It really doesn't give you that much in LMU, but to even now they have been given the command to go double file. Looks a bit chaotic. I am looking forward to full formation laps on LMU because of the contact there on the formation lap, but we'll have to wait and see how that goes.
Oh, Michael already has taken a big lead.
Yep, having to wait for the rest of the field to catch up there.
Not something he's planning on doing when we are racing.
Hopefully not, as we go around the Casio triangle slowly for the final time. Coming on to the start-finish straight, and you know what this means, Frank? This means it's time for the famous words of motorsports. Ladies and gentlemen, we are shortly about to be... That's a very long way.
Breathe!
Racing! Good start there from Michael Thomas, but looks like Van Liebenstein keeps up with him into turn 1, but Thomas takes the initial launch into turn 1. That looks to be the two Ferraris there behind, or well, is that two Ferraris? Looks like that Walsh got a good start there in one of the cars further down the field. Sim seems to have dropped a position or two, but that could just be me looking at it wrongly. No, that is Liam Walsh who have jumped up to third there on the start. Good start from Liam Walsh, and no DTs there, at least initially, and no yellows, of course, but saying that too early, that's what went wrong last time out. Liam Walsh already up there to third position, it looks like, as the timing boards just need to sort themselves coming through the first split. Impressive launch there from the Ferrari driver of the PSUK team. Now it says fourth and back to third. He might be closely there, and that's with Regan Mitchell behind him. And winning and Vargas following up after that with Spenkelink in 7th. Good start so far, all 42 drivers making it through the two first sectors, coming into Spoon with this many cars. That is always the challenge. We see the Lexus there trying for something, but not enough overspeed, it looks like. As even though you are faster going around there, you have to go the long way around. That could put you in behind once again. And the run out of Spoon are very important. Into 130R with racing speeds for the first time. First yellow flag out there, that's Ambrosio who have gone around. Ooh, and that's with the FedEx car. That's Cohen Geens as well, who went around. And there's another one, that's a race winner of the AMS at Watkins Glen. That's Cassia and De Bruyne as well, but that's a little bit further down after the Spoon curve. There must have been contact coming out of that with a different car.
His car is really damaged, so...
It does look like it. I wonder if he will take an early pit stop to repair that, or if he tries to keep it going. Looks like the steering is still straight though, but very hot tires at this point after a spin, so that could be something to look out for him. Yellow's up ahead in the Casio once again, and that was Brooklyn. It looks like the other DDS car. Two of the DDS drivers not having the greatest of starts, as Croft and Hedges have already gone into the pits. They must have gotten damage early on their cars, or they think they can make it to the end here on one tank of fuel. As Brooklyn falls further and further behind as he is trying to get back up into racing speeds. Further up the field, we should say, Mick Schenkelen's in 13th position in his Ferrari, being chased closely there by the Lexus of McCutcheon. And I'm going to pronounce that name differently every single time, I can already tell. With Wolf Garcia behind, but this could be, I would have said that was within reason if he would have launched it there. We have seen it before, because the optimum line takes you so wide on the entrance there, it is possible to sneak it up on the inside. Crying emojis in the YouTube chat, I think that's for De Bruyne, we see that one. being posted. This time the Lexus goes for it into the spoon, but not close enough. Have to back out of that one. And that's the thing, if you back out of it at that point, then you don't usually get the best of runs through the spoon. That will lose you the opportunity coming into 130R or even the Casio triangle, as overtaking into 130R takes, I would say, a fair bit of long corners to do so. Very difficult corners to follow behind in as well, but still on fresh tires, so it should be possible. Casio triangle will go. Still not close enough. We'll see a lot of this during the race with people moving up, and there's a crash in the 130R, looks like. That's Michael de Gore in the other Lexus. There's a that's a Mercedes up ahead. I think that's Wolfgang. No, that's Andrew Richardson involved in that one. Richardson falling now in the number 4 Mode 11 car. Let's see if he goes to the pits for early repairs. No, he stays out, so not that heavy damage. We will assume steering still straight on Richardson's car, as Chris is working hard to find replays of all the early things that have happened in the race. As we see behind the BMW, they're trying it on de Gore and succeeding. That's Vivard that makes the overtake. Vivard having a reasonable start to the race, we must say, and moving up through the field.
And I think we already lost someone as well. I think we started with 42 drivers and we now have 41. And I saw that Nard Cox is already on position 23. So he's been doing quite alright.
Tom Ferris there with big damage on the Mercedes. And there's a long way back to the pits from here. We see a lot of the AM drivers getting involved in instance early, both Brian, Brooklyn, Kelsey, and now Ferris, which means that we only have 4 AM drivers not involved in anything early on in the race, and Steve Parker leads the AM category at the minute. The Drift King himself. Oh, the Van der Graan further up the field, even in 17th position in the AM class. I think he must be the leader for sure. But the Drift King, Steve Parker, in podium positions in class. That could be interesting. Of course, do remember that even though that drivers around you are in a different class, you don't need to give any room for them. You're racing them on equal terms. There's also something called an overall championship that some drivers might think a little bit about when being out there on track. Although most of them are just out there to have some sort of fun with racing, of course. And I think that's the main point in championships like this. It's von Liebenstein we lost. We are just noticing from second position he have retired from the race, which means that it is Liam Walsh in second with a reasonable gap down to Chris Winning behind. Nick Vargas in battling positions at the minute with Regan Mitchell for 4th. The Mode 11, the triple one Mode 11 car of Nick Vargas. I do think the livery that Bart is wearing is slightly more sleek to look at with the reversed colors of this one. No comments from Frank on that.
Yeah, I was just checking the message from Samuel, because indeed he had he's really sad about bye-bye P2 and a fun race. He was really looking forward to this. His internet went down for a few minutes, so yeah, it's just a real shame. Especially since he was, of course, so well qualified.
Yeah, and many drivers put many hours into practicing for these events, and when they then could become undone so quickly early on, that's a true heartbreak. It surely is. I think you and I, we have tried getting involved in incidents early on in races ourselves, and felt like it was a bit of a waste of time doing all the practice, and even the internet connection there I've tried a few times. And it sucks terribly every single time. I even had one where I was running, I think, 3rd class with 10 minutes to go and my internet dropped.
I think I've had it. I think at one point I was even first when my connection dropped or something. That was quite a few years ago.
Yeah,
but it's, yeah, it happens.
It does. That's one of the things in the sim racing that we can't hold back for, unfortunately. Wolfgang Garcia into the wall at 130R. The Mad Panda Motorsports greatest livery within the game, if you ask me, and greatest team name, of course. Hits the wall hard and goes back Tej Fredriksson going to the pits early. I think he could potentially go to the end from here, Tej, and that might be the reason why he came in, trying to get out of traffic and getting some clean air ahead of him. As we do see Leonardo Wolf Garcia coming into the pits with a heavily damaged Mercedes.
It's going to be over a minute repairs, I guess.
It looks like it. Couldn't behind Martin van der Kraan. Of course, there are two van der Kraans in this race. I've had many seasons talking to Martin there in, during the races and before the race, after the race. Ooh, yellow flags again, a Mercedes involved in that. I can't see exactly who that is. Is that Regan? That is Regan in the Ferrari behind. That's from quite high position there. Regan is dropping from
position 4, yeah.
I believe, and I wonder, was that even a Mercedes then? That would have been a little bit strange that he would have been close to a Mercedes, and it would have been a back marker that came out of the pits. Could have been Tom Ferris. It looks like it actually on where they are on track. He might have just been trying to leave the room and a slight misunderstanding. But both cars still running at least. Do remember in this championship, drivers do get one drop result, which means your worst result over the season will be removed from the from the point sheet. So even well, technically, if you win all your races, then you'll just lose a race win in theory by points. You'll still have the win, of course, in all the races, but your worst result will be dropped from the standings at the end of the season. So drivers do have that one magical out, but I think a lot of them would expect that to have been in round 1.
I think for the people involved in the round 1 crash, that's certainly the one that they would like to forget, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And if you already involved something early on in round 2, then the rest of the season is basically a little bit more carefree. I've had the seasons before where I was involved in stuff in race 1 and race 2, maybe didn't go to plan. Then I honestly just felt free for the rest of the season, not caring about the championship and just going full send into the races. Obviously not in the overtakes, but maybe driving a little bit more aggressive, because there was nothing to lose really in the greater picture in those situations.
Yeah, that's not really the approach that I don't normally take. I'm just being more relaxed. Perhaps not as concentrated, which makes me spin quite a bit.
Perhaps we found ourselves at different ends of the timetables,
Oh, definitely. No, that's for sure. No, I just spoke to Chris before the race, and I also said, okay, for some reason I felt more comfortable in the rain, and I felt quicker than I actually was on dry track. That was a bit funny.
Let's see, replays coming up first. Yeah. This is Regan Mitchells with the back.
Yeah, he just
Regan just comes into the back of him, and then Vargas turns him around as he was so close. So nothing Vargas really could have done there, unfortunately.
That's a shame.
Looked like a racing incident from those cameras to me, but let's wait and see if it gets reported. What the stewards have to say. Kelsey and Vivard duking it out for 31st in the race. Now be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th position in the AM class. The red Ferrari of Kelsey, he will be looking to build on the strong result of round 1. Vivard just wants to get some good points on the table. On the run.
Because I think Kelsey already he had one of the incidents as well, right? So he's doing a bit of a comeback. And did we lose another driver again? 41?
We must
now
have
40. Yeah.
That's Tej Fredriksson have gone. That's another one of the expected top drivers. That is going to be interesting. Further up the field, we are hearing that it's a brake failure that he have on his equipment that caused him to retire from the race, which means that 2 of the top runners have disappeared. So there are a lot of points up for grabs in the top of the tables. Tej, of course, finishing 2nd in round 1. And that's the move there from Kelsey as Vivard just takes it a little bit too deep there, but no, fending it off does Vivard, but losing it a bit there. A little bit too aggressive on the defending, causing the slight contact. Then Vivard just goes off into the gravel pit there. So move done there from Kelsey. It looked like and he will take provisional 5th in the AM category.
North's up already to position 18.
Sonnes, I think Sonnes have crashed as he actually gets a move on Sonnes there as well all of a sudden. A little bit surprising. So that will be 4th in class then for Kelsey. Sometimes you just get gifted those positions. Next driver up will be Melis there in class. Wouter Vince behind Wouter Blitzma. Bijilsma.
Bijlsma. Bijl.
I think my pronunciation was closer than yours. Into 130, yeah, we go with the 2 McLarens closely following Does wins.
I'm allowed to be a commentator because I can pronounce the Dutch name. He
makes the move in 130. Yeah, that's one of the DDS liveries. Of course, DDS using NASCAR liveries on their cars. Just a little bit of a fun side fact. I think that's actually a Toyota livery, if I'm not mistaken. Well, it does say Toyota on the back, so obviously it is. But that was just a little bit of a bell ring there with the Toyota livery. But obviously NASCAR reference. As we see drivers coming out of the pits. But move done there from Rins and up into 20th for him. Next man up would be Van der Gaan in the number 27 AM driver in first in the championship. I do remember that one season where we had the that was the rookie class. The one time that we ran that, but went into the final round, and it all came down to an instant in literally the final corner where the championship switched hands. That was a true heartbreak, and one of the well, some would say, yeah, Indianapolis it was one of the well, greater moments in the or most exciting moments I've ever seen in sim racing, when it changed like that. A big traffic there coming into Degner 2. Really seeing the harmonica effect there coming into play as everyone having to slow down there. I think that's Ferris ahead of these drivers in the Mercedes. He will have to be giving up the room at some point as he will be getting blue flags. Ooh, contact there between the 2 McLarens. Spinning around, Bas getting a tap there. That's the DDS car going around, and the Lexus as well. That's Misha Melis who have spun there in the number 1 car. That's from 3rd in class. Will Misha get going before Kelsey comes? I highly doubt it. But good job there, just staying in position until the track was clear, and then doing the safe recovery. I am terrible at that. I'm the type of guy who just floor it on the pedal after a spin like that, and totally forget about getting cleanly back on track.
I always forget to really hold the brakes. That's more my problem, I guess.
Well, it is a stressful situation when stuff like that happens. A lot of things that you have to do quickly, and it's just basically just reflex at that point. Some people with, or some drivers with better reflexes than others. Nart Cox into 18th position, looking for the move on Carl van Horn next time around, the number 13. Aston Martin of Astro Racing. I do believe, I hope it's not THRC, but I do think it's Astro that Carl drives for. Coming around into the Degnas will not be very tricky, and trying it into Degna 1, I hope not. No, it didn't look like it. Degna 2, who's coming out in front? Still Van Horn. Nart does get a very good run there. He is close enough to try it into the hairpin, but he does go for it. I would probably have stayed behind as Nart would probably know that he could get the better exit as well. And then just sending it into to Spoon, losing as little time as possible. But Nart up into 17th position there. And then let's see if Carl van Horn can chase down Cox to get the overtake. Vincent Blitzman still in the fighting here. I think it looks like, no, that's Van der Gaan ahead of Vince. That's Van der Gaan and Vince that are duking out for 19th overall in the standings. Of course, a lot on the line there for Van der Graan, as he does lead the AM category at the minute, so he might not be too interested in defending this way too hard. But again, we do have Steve Parker close by behind, not too far down to him, so he might want to try and just keep those cars between himself and Parker to get himself the best possible chance of taking the win here this evening.
So how's the exit of the speed of the McLaren? Is that one of the higher ones compared to the Ferrari?
Not. Absolutely not. The McLaren have never been known for the highest of top speeds. It's a very nice car to drive and super good in the corners, but top speed wise it's not up there, I would say. Although it could have been bobbed and tweaked and stuff like that since the last time I drove the McLaren myself, so hard to say really in these times. I'm not
What's the LFM BOP on the cars for that?
It is. So hard to say if you haven't driven LFM Bob recently. I actually haven't done a sprint race on ACC for over a year at this point.
I was trying to find it out, but can't really see it at the moment. So
A little bit of slide there from Vince, which means that Van der Graan might be a little bit safe, at least coming into to the hairpin.
yeah, so the McLaren has a plus 9 kilogram handicap. The Bentley minus 28, by the way, and the Aston minus 1 kilogram, and the Ferrari has plus 11, so plus 12 for the Porsche. Minus 33 for the Lexus. So that's the BOP for the viewers. That's the balance of performance. That's a system where by adding or moving away some of the weight on the cars, you make them more even in performance. So lap times then should become more or less the same. And that's a way to, and that's based on a per track basis. So that means that the car should be more or less viable to be number one on each track.
And as you were speaking, Frank, Vince have made the move there on Van der Graan, who have dropped to 20th overall. So now it's only Bridgman and Parker behind in the train. Of course, Vince still leading the train and needs to pull away to secure a little bit of room. It's also important for Vince to get out of this one, as he does have other classmates, we should say, drivers in the same class as him behind in the train. So if he can get the lead on them, he might get himself a little bit of an advantage, still with the pit stop to go. And of course, we don't know where the drivers who have pitted already they are in comparison exactly to these guys. It does seem like when these drivers come in that Dave Hedges will actually overtake, but whether or not that he can go to the end, we'll have to wait and see. McCutcheon, here's the new pronunciation this time, leading the silver class, and actually looks to be a little bit quicker than Faneur at the minute. So he could potentially go for a move at some point and really show that Lexus some good colors here at the home track at Japan. Of course, the Lexus actually being a very, very quick car in a straight line. That's sort of a missile we can really see here against the Ferrari, even in the slipstream, trying it into 130 out, backing out of it. But then by doing that there, he just lost the opportunity for the Casio triangle. That's one of the things that many race drivers, myself included, often forget, that if you miss time your overtakes, then you actually just lose time. You could have lost an even better opportunity to make the pass. We can see, I think that's Andy King that we can see ahead of Faneur in the foreground, just 1.2 seconds up the road. So they are still in it with the chance to get up to Andy King, and those PS UK guys actually performing super well here. They have progressed a lot in their driving skill over the years. I think that must be about a year or two ago when I was in the McLaren as well. Andy King and Liam Walsh was not that much quicker than me, and of course that was the year with the big rivalry between myself and Bas in both McLarens. That was quite fun to see, even though both of us had horrendous luck and we only saw each other on track once, where we of course ended in a war. Well, that was just a fun look back at history time with Ollie, and Regan Mitchell recovering well in this race. 13th position, Conway ahead of him. He's not that far up the road from Nard there. Big move there from Regan Mitchell's in the Brabham liveried Ferrari. Which means it's 12th for Mitchell's now. Shilligans ahead of him before Kunt. A little bit of a ways to go before it catches up to Shilligans in 11th.
Mitchell's lap times are quite decent, so there are like 3 people, so the top 3 is actually driving in 1:59 and all the other ones are a bit slower than that. But it's quite difficult, I think, to get those lap times consistently in the 1:59. And the quickest lap time at the moment is by Michael Thomas anyway, about it's a 1:58.977, so.
Well, for drivers like you and me, Frank, it's difficult to get those lap times in qualifying even.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to make that anyway. I think I would be happy with 2:03.
Maybe if we could get hypercars, we could be competitive with
Yeah.
Thomas in oh, big move there! A little bit too late on the brakes as he does send it a bit too deep there for Pitchma. Lost out on the move there and having to let people go through, not optimum there as he does come in there a little bit of he stays to the correct side there, but it's confusion for Steve Parker which way he had to go, as Steve will now try it into the first corner, maybe not close enough to actually launch it in there, but the room is given, which means that Parker can take position, and he does take it. Nice move there from Steve Parker, put himself into a 21st position.
And then he's directly behind Ian, so Ian van der Kraan. So that should be. Exactly. Hopefully, he can sort of catch up a bit to him.
Yeah, there will be about 2 seconds between them at this point, so it's just about keeping it in there for Steve Parker, and he will have a shot at a class win this evening of racing. Speaking of all the bad luck from the other AIM drivers, Kelsey is up into 3rd in class. We did see round 1 that it was Van der Kraan and Kelsey were the quickest drivers there. So maybe there's a little bit of a swap coming up in the championship standings from these guys. Van der Kraan in 2nd last time out with Parker. I think he outside top 5. I seem to remember at least, but big points on the offering for all drivers, of course, but could be important for Steve, as 5th could end up being his scrap result in the AIM class, so he could potentially go up and tie for 1st, including scrap results, if he gets this win this evening. Kelsey under 2nd behind Diggory, but those Lexuses are so annoying to be behind because they are rocket ships in a straight line. Not the best under braking, but it's so difficult to get close enough to them to try the moves at the end of the straights. You need sort of these medium straights where you're exiting a corner that requires a lot of downforce to be close underneath them before the straights, and the straights not to be too long so you can still take your speed advantage at the end of the straights if you want to make moves on those Lexus.
Yeah, he should have an opportunity though now, right? If you look at this into turn 1.
Highly doubt it. I think that Lexus have enough to stay ahead.
Yeah, but if the cornering is better from the Ferrari, should be getting closer. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the thing, the Lexus is just so much quicker that he have the gap that when they start braking he can turn in for the apex, and the Ferrari will have nowhere to go if he tries for it. I myself have driven that Lexus quite a bit in the good old days.
I just never have driven it, I think. I might have tested it like once. So is it the car I want to drive? Nope.
It is a wonderful machine, and what a noise it makes in real life, I must tell you. That is something to witness firsthand. It's even louder than the V8 Mustangs.
Okay.
Speaking of, do we even have the Mustangs in this season? Did anyone even select the Mustangs? big question. And Mitchell's already caught up there to Shelikins.
But
And
I'm not
Mitchell's
quite sure what.
forcing Shelikins to take some bad lines there, having him go defensive. So Regan Mitchell on the move. He could potentially do this into to turn one. Same car, but different setups could apply to these drivers. And we do know that the closer you are to the front, the more likely you are to run lower downforce setups. Didn't look like that Mitchell's had that much less downforce or top end there than Shelikins, but that is usually the way it goes, that the top drivers runs with less downforce as they can still take full advantage in the corners, and then they'll just have that little bit of extra speed down the straights.
But Mark Conway is also getting into the mix, I think, if it takes a bit longer.
Yeah,
He seems to be quite quick.
Yeah, Conway have really managed to stick with Regan Mitchell's there after Mitchell's overtook, which is a bit surprising. Not many people can manage to pull that off, staying with Regan, but he managed to do it this time around. Regan, of course, have been held up a little bit by Shelikins, it seems. Of course, it is fully legal for Shelikins as they are battling for position. So it is Regan's problem to try and get a move done. But this time he is so closely packed under. But this is again the thing. Even if you get the run and you're trying to move out of the slipstream, you'll go the longer way around, and all of a sudden you'll have to turn more on the wheel and you'll lose that speed advantage through here. Very close into Spoon. This is the thing. Have a good look on Shelikins, whether or not that he gets a little bit of wheel spin or slip coming out there, but this time it's Regan Mitchell who runs a little bit too wide onto the back straight. So no trouble into 130R, at least it will look like. And Regan even lifting that little bit extra there as he was in the dirty air through 130R, so no chance into 130R as Conway actually closes the gap a little bit there. So maybe if this keeps on for not that much longer, Conway will have the opportunity to strike back at Regan Mitchell. Still with 44 minutes to go in the race. A good time to remind you guys to hit the like button and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and hit the notification bell to get notifications when we go live here on the SSRI YouTube channel. Stay posted and connected following the championship along, of course, on our Discord channel as well if you're interested in joining our little community. Quite large community at this point, where we have everything from ACC to LMU races scheduled. Go to Discord, found Simsport Racing International, join the page and get involved in the action. Speaking of action, look at that, the closeness they're running with there through the Deckness. That might be the corner where I've gotten the most track cuts around this track, Deckner 2.
Definitely.
Just going that little bit wide there, and you know you can use the track out there, but just edging it by a little inch, and nope, track cut. For those who don't know, you get 3 track cuts, and then you're on the final warning. You have the 3 warnings. On the 4th, you will get a drive-through penalty in the race that you'll have to save within 3 laps, and that does not count to your mandatory pit stop. At this time, Regan Mitchell seems to have the overspeed, but looked like he lifted there a little bit, not to get the move on too early, but now he will have the chance into 130R side by side, but backing out. Does he even? Yes, he does. But room is given there, so it could be into the Casio triangle, almost preparing for a free wide there. Smart move from Conway, backing out. Regan Mitchell's on the outside, but that will become the inside, and move done from Regan Mitchell's, at least for now, and Conway will have to slot in behind Shelikins there.
Yeah, although I think he's so much quicker on the straight, is that he's gonna pass immediately.
Conway seems to have the good opportunity at least to make the move and get himself behind Regan Mitchell and try to follow Regan further up the field, as the next man up for Regan Mitchell will be Vaneur. Speaking of Sim, in a little bit of a battle there with Kunt further up the field, as well as Partis comes into the pit stop.
Yeah, we're
into the pits to take the pit stop. yellow flag was spotted, so it could have been involved in something that caused him to take it.
Yeah, we're starting to run into the sort of the pit window. If you want to do your pit stop about halfway.
I would say so. 37.5 minutes would be exact halfway through the race, but it is within the window. I would agree with that, Frank. But well, we have seen the undercuts work well if you go out in clean air, as you do get on your fresher tires early, so you can gain a lot of track position on that. But if you go out early, then you also have a higher risk of running into traffic out there of people who haven't stopped yet. So I think that will be a call for the drivers if they are stuck behind a driver maybe, and they know that they're going to do the tire change. Then they'll have to do a replay coming up here. That is something we have to do with Simsport. Solo spin there from Sim. Unfortunately for him, I've done that myself in the Lambo a few times as well. Frank, you've driven the Lambo.
Oh yeah, I've driven the Lambo a lot, and this is the normal facing way, is that you just look around. It's a car that you use to look around, and you do that by spinning. So it's a touring car.
Some could say
it's a really nice car. I really like to drive the Lambo, but it's sometimes it's a bit dodgy. Just a small tap, especially on a curb, and a bit too much on the throttle, and you spin. It's a hard car to drive in that aspect.
You know what, Frank? Practice makes perfect.
That's why I don't practice.
I enjoy the Lambo as well, as it gives you a good challenge, as it is very quick, especially if you run it with really knife-edge setups where a little bit of too much steering input will put you into a spin, but just right will gain you so much in that car. A true machine to drive. You really feel like manhandling it when you are going around with those super loose setups. But Simsport on the move out of Degner too, even he will have the outside into the hairpin. Almost looked like that couldn't give him that one, not wanting to go side by side into the hairpin. So Sim back up into 7th position as Kund falls in behind.
Back in 8th.
Oh yeah, back in 8th, of course it is. Of course he's back in 8th and Kund in 9th. Maybe Kund will just try to use Sim to catch up to the drivers further up the road to McCutcheon there, as that would be the battle for Silver Glories. Speaking of glories, we can actually maybe see Kelsey getting closer and closer to the front battle for
just
the
Van der Linden
drivers.
now in between, yeah.
Yeah, but still 10 seconds from Kelsey and up. But Iron Van der Linden at least here from the THRC. I don't know what I was trying to say there before. THRC Racing behind Steve Parker in the BMW battle for 20th. Even though that Iron are in a higher class, you wouldn't just expect him to run by Steve Parker, as Parker can hold his own in racing situations. But let's see what happens. Nick Vargas into the pits. Into 1/3 yard, just looking in behind, trying to stay as close as possible, but it is difficult when you're following behind, as you lose so much aero going through there. And you're already on the edge of what the cars can do when you're entering 130R. And also might be why we're seeing so many cars following behind that's hitting the inside curb, because they're lifting off the throttle. As we hit the halfway point, we see Iron Van der Linden coming into the pits as well. We will expect Vargas to have taken tires, and Iron will probably do the same thing in the pits this time around. Kelsey into the pits as well, probably for tires also. I would say if you're doing the fuel-only strategy, then you would want to run as deep as possible to take as little fuel as possible into the pits, as they do fuel and change tires at the same time. So that doesn't matter too much when you take the pit stop there. So you would preferably want to do it halfway through, so you have 2 equal stints in regards to tire wear. But with the fuel strategy, it only takes a few seconds to do a splash and dash. So that could be the thing. I would reckon that a pit stop time gained by only taking fuel when I get into those strategies, and if you do the splash and dash strat, will be roughly 20 seconds as an estimate.
So what's the? I'm never quite sure what the, because if you, yeah, that's the limit of the fuel, right? So tires is 30 seconds.
Yeah, and
That's it.
it's
And
30
fuel.
seconds for tire change, and I think minimum fuel you can take is 3 seconds, but I don't think a single liter will be enough around here to get you that little bit extra you need to go to the end. Liam Walsh from second, and Chris Winning coming into the pits as well. That will be important later on, if they whether or not they come out in traffic or not. Conway Trevor's very
Michael
busy in the
Thomas as
pits.
well.
Michael Thomas into the pits also.
Yeah.
Although he's already coming out of the pits, it looks like he even comes out in clean air. And gets a stop go 30 for Michael Thomas, it seems like. That is a little bit unfortunate. Michael Thomas will have to go serve a stop go 30, which means it will be very unlikely that Thomas takes the race win this time around. Anything could potentially happen. This would mean that Liam Walsh are theoretically leading this race. Or he will be leading once everyone comes into the pits if everyone's on the same strategy. That is big news for Liam Walsh, and also big news for Chris Winning if he can get the move on and maybe put in the challenge for the championship.
And Sam spun again.
Sim not having a good time in the Lambo this round, it looks like.
Similar spin as he did during the qualifying. Same point.
Very interesting.
Well, getting out of a hairpin in the Lambo with a bit too much steering input and a bit too much throttle is a challenge.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I actually think that Liam Walsh, did he even drive at Watkins Glen? I don't seem to remember anything with Liam Walsh in that race. I honestly don't think he did, so he already must have had his scrap result. This would have put him straight into the championship battle, even only 6 seconds behind Michael Thomas after they came out of the pits. Just saying, so he's not falling that far behind during a stint, Liam Walsh, so he could potentially go in and challenge later on in the season. Come on, Hedges and Kelsey, the original Simsport racing team boys. Being mentioned there from Christopher Pinch back in the YouTube chat. Hello, Pinchy, long time no see.
No, Liam didn't race in race 1. I'm just checking.
I thought so. So this puts him into contention. And remember, yep, with Dave Hedges' early pit stop, then he could also find himself in a very favorable position once the pit stop rounds are over. As Thomas come in to serve his stop go 30. Shekaman Shelikins, Ian van der Kran as well from the lead of the AM class goes into the pits. I'm expecting a lot of the drivers to come in here and bounce, but it does seem to be quite a few drivers trying the no tire change strategy. As if you want to change your tires, you would probably have pitted by now, or they could run an app that tells them that they will come out in traffic if they do so. So that could be a reason why a lot of drivers haven't stopped just yet. But I am traffic there for Walsh, getting out the way there, nicely done by the traffic. I think that was Tom Ferris in the Mercedes.
So Michael's back on track.
Yeah, let's see when he crosses the first split how far he dropped down. It will be a little bit more, but he is around here 20th position for Michael Thomas. A lot of work to get back up there. He will mostly be looking at his own position relative to the other pro drivers, as he will likely be competing for overall glories at the end of the championship. He's just behind Patrick Travers in the Bentley.
So he's still 5th more at the moment, I think, looking at all the other guys that still need to do a pit stop. So So Sam is in the pit now.
He is.
Danny McCutcheon is in the pit.
I think that will be the last
Out of
round
Vince is in the pit.
of tire changes that we are seeing in this lap. I would expect so, at least. Which means that we could quite easily say that those who have stayed out are not going for tires in this race. I would honestly have expected Bas to do so, as we did see him have that spin earlier on, or being at least involved in contact. So he will have had a little bit of extra tire wear on that car.
Yeah, but I also don't think that Sam actually took new tires, but he spun out a couple of times already, so...
Yeah, I would imagine him with the tire swap. And the move there, that's Michael Thomas going through Patrick Travis. Of course, I would not expect the Travis to fight it too much. I wouldn't have either if I saw Michael Thomas coming up behind. And Pinchy, what a fool you are for forgetting Thomas, or sorry, forgetting Regan Mitchell. I don't think you can do yourself proud. Honestly, forgetting Regan Mitchell himself, as much as that we have talked about Regan Mitchell, how could you forget? How could you forget? I think you owe all the guys a round of beers, honestly. YouTube chat, Chris Hill. Yes, I was not talking to myself. Nick Vargas on the move on Carl van Horn. Into 9th for Nick Vargas, the Mode 11 driver who already served his pit stop. And theoretically in in 3rd at the minute. How does the lap times look, Frank, between those who have stopped? I'm mostly looking at Walls, to be honest. And then a driver like Andy King.
So Liam did a 1:59.542 last lap. Chris did a 1:59.710. And Michael Thomas is still, his last lap was a 2:41, so he's still on the...
How do they compare to Andy King and Regan Mitchell and Vanua in the front?
Let's see, Regan Mitchell did a 2:01.402, Peter Vernier 2:01.765, and Andy King a 2:01.415.
So in about 10 laps time, the difference of making the tire change or not will have paid off for these drivers. That will be something to keep a close eye on this evening, how that turns out at the end. But I do think the tire change would have been worth it nearing the end of the race. Of course, we have just compared the absolute quickest drivers to the current leaders of the race who haven't stopped. But I do still think the tire change could have been worth it for a lot of people if you could get out in clean air. You don't need to lose a lot of time in traffic to having lost that advantage. Leonardo Wolf Garcia, we saw him with a long pit stop early in the race with a very, very damaged Mercedes. Moving slowly up through the field. Into 34th at the minute as he's trying to get around the Lexus there. I think the Lexus might be a lap ahead of him actually, and that's why we don't see him just letting him go as Garcia. They're giving room for the Lexus, it looked like, and the Porsche as well.
Yeah, he's
that's Tom Ferris in the wall. That's out of Spoon. Must have put a wheel into the gravel there and spun it around. It is not that often we see cars park the back into that wall.
But I've spun there in practice enough.
At this point, Frank, I think it's easy to say where
didn't I spin? Yeah, true. But still, I think that corner is just tricky. I'm not quite. Yeah, this is one. I think this is one for me anyway. This was one of the hardest corners to get right. The exit of that spoon curve. For some reason, it always would catch me out losing the back end. And I really had to adjust my setups for that corner only on Suzuka. Otherwise, I would just crash too much.
That is interesting to know. And the battle of the Mounters continue for 33rd. this time around, but that's because we have people ahead of them who haven't stopped yet. The two McLarens on it still getting very tight. Ian van der Gran actually gaining a lot of time there in the pits, but Steve Parker losing out big in the pit stop round and dropping to 29th and 3rd in class. And quite the distance off of Kelsey, 13 seconds behind Kelsey.
Maybe Steve took tires and the other ones didn't.
I don't think that anyone would not take tires if you're coming at the halfway point. It seems strange than coming in halfway through, because you would have to fuel the car for longer in the pits rather than if you would have just waited until the end. Of course, if you only took a half tank of fuel that most people would have done.
So then what happened with Steve, right?
Yeah, exactly. But that it could, of course, just be a strategy call from the drivers to come at the halfway point and maybe even still just take a splash and dash. But having planned out for that in advance, of course. Could also have been damage on Steve's car that he repaired in the pits.
Didn't see him involved in any accidents, so.
No, but I think that we have missed quite a few on cameras, to be honest.
Yeah.
Speaking of accidents and catching things on camera, McCutcheon here having caught up to Dave Hedges. Remember that Hedges, he boxed very early in the race, so he'll be on very worn tires. At this point, I'm actually wondering whether or not that Hedges can go to the end. We know that the Ferrari can go almost forever if you use the different engine maps and plan it out correctly. So it is possible, of course, for Hedges to go to the end, but whether or not that he remembered to fuel save is quite the interesting thing to keep an eye on. And Hedges actually finds himself, theoretically, I think he's leading the silver class of those who have stopped, and we didn't see him involved in the incidents before he stopped, so he could potentially just have gone in early to get out of traffic and then paying for it now. As we see that defending that does Hedges, good defensive job, forcing McCutcheon wide, but it's a long time to defend over a car who's likely on fresher tires than himself. But we will see if Hedges, he can do this. Coming up to lap Ferris, it looks like that's the black Mercedes of him in the... No, that's not. That's actually battling for a position there between the... Yeah, no, that's Garcia being lapped, of course. It is Garcia in the Mad Panda Motorsports livery with Mercedes. And the Lexus of De Galway catching up to him. It surely must be De Galway.
Looks like it's a Lexus as well, so. I think that's
Yeah.
Agora, yeah.
Yes, it is De Galway. And it is for position with De Galway as well, but De Galway also haven't stopped yet. So, ooh, getting their Hedges, getting close to De Galway, the under-braking. That Lexus is not the best under-braking, just keep that in mind. And Hedges and De Galway both on worn tires, but look at the speed difference there. As we talked about earlier, how fast the Lexus is in a straight line, of course. Hedges does get the slipstream from the other Lexus, but overshot there from McCutcheon. And Hedges go straight back through. Flashing there for some reason does the Lexus driver. Didn't look like that that Hedges did anything wrong there from our helicopter cam. But you can just see the speed difference. I just think McCutcheon is a little bit frustrated that he can't get past Hedges at this point. He's losing so much time behind. But he will just have to make the move, as De Kund or Kund, he catches up behind and have got himself directly into this battle. He might just be laughing because of all the time he gained on this. But again, Makuchin, he should know at this point that the Lexus is so much quicker than the Ferrari. He just needs to get it done. And look at that, even the overspeed looked like he had to lift off a bit there to avoid getting into the back of hedges. But he will just have to set it up through the spoon and then getting it into 130R maybe. As he will have the better run if he can get early enough on the front. Looks like that he did. He should potentially be able to slipstream himself past before 130, or at least get himself into position to do so. On the side there, a little bit of rubber banding, it does look like, on the connection from one of the drivers, and he goes through. That was the move for the expected lead of the silver class once the pit stop round is completely over, with Carl van Horn still needing to box and Michael de Gore just up ahead. But the likelihood is that de Gore will be overtaken before the pit stop round. Well, he just got overtaken there, so yeah, he did. Kun coming up, rain expected in 30 minutes, but that will be just after the race, unfortunately for us. I was just getting my hopes up there with the rain appearing on the radar. Would have been lovely for a little bit of a shower. That could also have been the strategy of staying out late, giving you the opportunity to switch over directly to wets without having to have the stop in between.
Yeah, but like I said, I think looking at the settings of the server, you wouldn't expect any rain normally.
No, normally, but you know how it goes.
Yeah. If I would see it at that moment, I would like, oh shit, didn't prepare anything for that.
No, well, to be fair, with wet weather racing, either you're good in the rain or you're not. There's basically no in between with that. Speaking of racing, next time out we'll go to Oulton Park for a very, very different racetrack. Also narrow, of course, but a much tighter, much slower track to drive at. I wouldn't expect the Lexuses or the Lexus cars, the Lexus cars or the Nissans to be that good around that, to be perfectly honest with you, Frank.
No, that's those are the tracks really for the more nimble cars, right?
I would say so, but so that's going to be interesting, and a little bit of a thorn in the side maybe on Michael Thomas's championship aspirations, and we could potentially see other drivers maybe even challenging for the lead of the championship in that race, as Kund also makes the move on de Gore.
Yeah, that's a nice
one.
Although quite unexpected to see the BMW being actually quicker than the Lexus.
Well, Beamer's not slow, and the Lexus are on very worn tires and slipstream advantage and all sorts of fun stuff. As Hedges will be the next driver to come up to de Gore. In a few moments time, less than 20 minutes to go in the race. So everyone's still on their toes. Shigerman there with the move on Carl van Horn for 8th position. Carl just needs to run his race at this point and try and lose as little time as possible when people come up to him overtaking. He knows that he still needs to pit does Carl.
Yeah, there's 7-second difference, right? So with Danny.
Yeah, but that will not matter that much if Carl chooses to fight it when Makuchin comes up to him. Then it will be a little bit of a lost cause, as Carl will not be battling Makuchin directly in this race. He's fighting guys much further down. Do you remember, he needs to take the pit stop, and the guys he's battling, they will not lose unnecessary time if they don't have to. Neither will Carl probably when drivers come up. Narcock, speaking of, into 10th, will overtake him and get himself into 9th when he gets up to Carl. And that will actually be first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth overall in the race, starting from the back, did not, of course. Michael Thomas, another overtake. This time it's his turn to get it on the Ray.
Oh, and let's see if Michael anyway gets anywhere near Nard. So it's about 8 to 9 laps still to go.
I'm not sure about that. You know how quick Nard is. I think it's more likely that they will catch up to Schegerman than Nard. Come the end of it. Bas Famelis finally comes into the pits with 16 minutes to go. That BMW can't have run out of fuel at this point, but maybe he's just electing to do it now to get an idea of where he is on track. In regards to those, he's battling Andy King into the pits as well. From the race lead.
Peter and Regan. So we now have 4 Ferraris on top. It's quite amazing. Well, we already had that, but it's...
but 2 of them needs to be into the pits and 1 of them are currently in. It's interesting to see where Andy comes out of the pits.
Yeah.
Nick Vargas overtaking him on track now, and Andy is moving from the pits again. Looks like he actually comes out just behind. Yeah, he's out behind Vargas. He will be out in a 6th position on track. That's a bit surprising. Though that time he saved by pitting late have really paid off for Andy King. Ahead of Sim still, but again with all the spins that Sim have had, that's not that surprising.
A big fight between Regan and Peter for the lead.
Yeah, the current lead of the race, but they will give that up to Liam Walsh once these guys stop.
What was the difference between Andy and Peter?
Can't
before the
some smart guy in the YouTube chat will probably scroll back and then tell us if we have any smart guys in the YouTube chat, of course. Viewers. No, you're all wonderful and lovely people out there, of course. And look at that, Ian van der Gran moved up into a 23rd position and makes his way into the timing board when we look from at the top drivers down. Not that often we see the aim drivers sneak into that. Nard Cox with the move on Carl van Horn. Let's see how this looks coming into Spoon. Carl will just keep the foot in, of course, but probably fall in behind and just let Nard have this one.
Yeah, there's no real reason to try and battle that completely.
None whatsoever. Next guy behind Carl will be McCutcheon. But remember that Carl still needs to pit that black Aston Martin. Into 130 we go. A little bit wide there from Carl. I don't think he was quite wide enough there for the track cut, and McCutcheon there flashing his light. Carl, of course, doesn't have to move out of the way, but he does indicate that he's boxing this lap. But a little bit aggressive there from McCutcheon flashing his lights. He was battling Carl on track there for the minute, and Carl wasn't obligated to move out this way. I don't know if McCutcheon just expected him to do so for no particular reason, but nevertheless, McCutcheon still leading the silver class, being chased down by Kunt behind on in second at the minute, so that will be interesting to see if he catches up to him.
And also what Michael is gonna play for a role in with Burak. So is he gonna slow down Burak perhaps a bit?
Very likely.
Play into the hand of Danny, yeah.
But how Kunt takes it? That will be the interesting thing, because he could potentially just go into the slipstream behind Michael Thomas. He needs to let Michael go at the correct time, losing as little time for himself as possible once Michael Thomas gets close enough. But also Michael will try and get the move done in a way where he loses as little time as possible. So it is a little bit of a win-win there for both drivers if they can get this sorted between them without too much fighting. But then again, with 12 minutes to go, it would be possible to keep any driver behind for this amount of time. It's about 6 laps worth of racing. Still to go here at Suzuka. Oh well, virtual Suzuka it is.
Because Michael is driving laps of about 2:0.36. And the guys in front of him are all driving like 2:01.5 to 2:02.5. So Nart is trying 2:02.6. So if Michael can keep his pace up a bit, he's really catching, for example, Nart with 2 seconds a lap.
Yeah, that's a bit surprising to be honest. But once again, Michael Thomas are a quick driver. Makuchin there gets the move done on Nart Cox, or at least battling Nart Cox. But also Nart in 9th with still 2 people yet to pit. But whether or not that he will gain those positions after Mitchell's and Veneer stops, I'm a little bit in doubt, to be honest.
No, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. They are a little bit too far ahead. So they could be where they are supposed to be after, or at least in regards to Nart, they will probably still be ahead.
So it's like 25 seconds or so, or not 20 seconds about-ish to Andy King. And I don't think Regan and Peter were like...
Oh, they were. They
were within 20 seconds of Andy.
Definitely, I think it was 6 or 8 or something like that, so not too far. Regan Mitchells comes into the pit, so does Veneer, which also might indicate that they had the same range on that Ferrari fuel tank, which would be expected. Makuchin really playing a little bit dangerous here. He could, with those moves, he could put himself in a situation where they could potentially crash out and from the lead of the silver. That would be very, very tragic, of course.
Yeah, but I can imagine that he wanted to get somebody between him and Watkins, so...
Yeah, but that is a good point, but still risking a little bit much there. Nothing wrong with the racing, of course, but a little bit too much risk for my liking if I was in that position with that. But again, it does look like that he have a ton of paces. He's actually putting away from Nart. So that's a good sign, at least there from Kuchin. So good driving, and if he is that much quicker than Nart, that it actually looks like he is, then getting that car between himself and Burak Kunt, that is very good for him. Of course, a very valuable part of his strategy. We have Mike
Thomas already passed Burak Kunt as well.
He did, and that's a little bit of a while ago. Here we have Mark Conway battling it out with Hedges that still have those very worn tires. I actually think that Hedges calculated this correctly, and he could go flat out on that on the fuel tank after he stopped early. Of course, the alternate strategy in terms of getting into the alternate strategy of no tire change, taking the stop early. I have considered that a few times in other events as well, just to get out of traffic, get as much time on my own as possible, and you don't lose time battling other drivers or getting involved in silly instances if you do so. So I think that Hedges actually have played this very well in terms of strategy.
Unless he still needs to pit.
Considering where he started on the grid, then I think it was a very good choice that he did there, with the knowledge that he could go to the end. I don't think he needs to pit, because we did see the other Ferraris that just recently stopped, that they have done almost all race on that tank with with coming in with less than 10 minutes to go. So I think that Hedges is safe. Also, Andy King coming out in 4th after his Regan Mitchell coming out in 5th after his pit stop with Veneer in 6th. Mitchell's actually only 4 seconds behind Andy King there.
And Sam is only like 3/10 behind Peter Vernier, so
And
that
that
could be
is quite
interesting as well.
interesting because Sim is on fresh tires. And imagine if Sim hadn't had all those spins, he could potentially have been ahead of Andy King at this point.
Yeah. But that's racing, right?
That surely is racing. You roll your own die and
what was it? As if my mom had balls, he would be my dad. Was that the expression that Max Verstappen did in an interview?
something like that. As here comes Sim with the much fresher tires. I think that Sim are one of the drivers who will know that these drivers around him, they definitely didn't take tires in their stop, so he will have a huge advantage in this battle. Sim Spankeling, fresh tires on the Lambo. Oh, fresh
To be
shot.
honest, for me it was obligatory on the Lambo to take new tires. I just couldn't manage a race for over an hour on tires that were that old. I just couldn't keep the tires alive.
I honestly thought that I would struggle more at Sanford with the Lambo than I did when I did that race in the Lambo. But again, was also quite good weather conditions, and of course the left tires will always just die there. But let's see what Sim does. Still behind, and with 5.5 minutes to go, he will need to find a way through quite quickly if he wants to progress further up the field. If I was Vernier in this situation, I would defend like a lion. As there are no points in giving out free positions this late in a race.
Oh, and Michael Thomas passed Nard Cox already.
That was early now. Michael Thomas is behind him, McCutcheon. It would make it way easier for overall championship calculations if Michael Thomas gets that pass on Kuchen later on. The 22 car have gone around. Have started moving again. Sim having a little bit of a look there into Deckner 1, but thinking better of it and just pulling out at the last second. Vettel's car getting nicely out of the way there. That's DDS McLaren. Sim going for it. It looks like fully on the throttle, but again, those gaps that happens coming out of the corners, that attempt into the deck that caused him the opportunity there out of deck 2 and then into the hairpin, but this time much better launch through the through Spoon. Down the back straight, but into 130R, that is very, very dangerous to go for. But Sim with much fresher tires, he should be able to stay under the wing of Vernier there. Does it somewhat well, but not close enough to try it into the Casio triangle. But look at that, Sim can take much tighter lines, but losing a little bit of the rear end there and missing out on the opportunity down the start-finish straight. Likely just 2 laps to go in the race for these drivers, so Sim will need to get this done rather soon. And it looks like Vernier actually stands a pretty good chance of defending this from Sim Spankeling on fresher tires. If
Peter is an experienced driver as well, right?
Yeah, but if Vernier succeeds in keeping Sim behind with Sim being on fresher tires, or expectedly fresher tires, well, Sim is on fresher tires, so we can see how much tighter he can take the turns. And then I would call that a defense of the day. But here we go for Sim, getting a little bit squeezed in, then boxed in. Not close enough through Deckner 1. Deckner 2 we go through now. Keep it behind early on the throttle, Sim. You need it into the hairpin. He can brake later with the fresher tires. Will he go for it? He shows himself, but Vernier chooses the correct defensive line there. On the exit, Sim early on the throttle. Not that much though. and not enough it looked like, as he couldn't get the car position correctly to take advantage of that.
Very
But
nicely defended, yeah.
Yeah, through
Ooh,
Spoon
bit
Sim
wide.
going a little bit too hot into it, but we'll get a reasonable exit from this this line. But once again, it's a run into 130R. You need the other car to make a little bit of a mistake if you want to try the move into 130R, because you really need to be more than halfway alongside the opposing car to get that done.
Yeah, and the
Get
Lambert
it
top
done
speed
safely.
isn't that high, to be honest.
No, it really isn't. Into the Casio triangle again. Presumably final lap. I don't know where Liam Walsh is on track. He's there. This will be the final lap of the race they're going on to now. Will Sim get this done? I actually doubt it. We have seen Vanir do very well in defense so far in this race. Getting close through the S's, but again, the S's is not the place where you need to be that close. You can't really make the move unless if Vanir makes a mistake, and that would be very uncharacteristic of him to do. Round we go, Sim all the way into
That was
the
a bit of a wiggle by Peter.
Yes, but into Degner 1. I highly doubt it. Getting close there.
Sam backed off a bit.
Oh, he goes right there, but Sim thinks about it. Side by side through Degner 2. Almost contacting for enough to do the spin, but not quite there. This time Vanir actually did leave the door a little bit open there. Sim could have launched in, but he tries for the early acceleration, does Sim, as he goes on the throttle. As Nick Vargas have gone spinning on the final lap and will likely
Liam
lose
Walsh
position.
is passing the finish in the right corner, almost at the
Liam
moment.
Walsh wins the race. Did Nick Vargas lose position there on the spin on the final lap? We'll have to wait and see a little longer. Winning finishes in second, but all eyes on Sim Spinkeling and Peter Vanir at the minute as they're coming down the back straight one final time. Does look like that Vargas didn't lose anything out of that there on the final line. But Peter Vanir keeps the defense, it looks like. Sim does have a good amount of speed. Will he try and send it? He does look for it, but Vanir goes defensive. It will be a run to the line as both cars run deep there. I think that Vanir will have to give that up. Sim makes a mistake and slides out the corner. I don't think Vanir have to do it anymore, but he does do it anyways. In good sportsmanship there.
Nice.
Very nice drive from both drivers, but if Vanir would have kept it in there, I actually think it would have been fair enough, as Sim made the mistake that lost him enough time on the exit that it wouldn't have been an advantage of leaving the track, but he did do the right thing there in sportsmanship and chose not to let it be up to a steward's decision at the end, so that is very smart driving from Vanir. Congratulations to the top three, of course, in all classes. After that, we didn't really get to run through the class and see who finished where, but I think you have it on your timing boards there, Frank Hopp.
I hope so. So Liam Walsh finishing first, Chris Vining finishing second, Nick Vargas finishing third for the pro class, Danny McCutcheon finishing first for silver, Boa Kunt second, and Dave Hedges third, I think, and then Ian van der Kraan first, Ranjiv Kalsi second, and Steve Parker third for the amateur class. So brilliant driving by all of them. Really good comebacks by a few people. I mean, Kalsi did a really nice comeback, of course, after the bad start. Regan Mitchell did an excellent comeback. I mean, he was sort of last, right, after the first couple of laps. So brilliantly done. So yeah, very nice race. Well done. It was a difficult one, I think, for quite a few people.
Yeah, Suzuka usually is a challenging track, and a lot of stories in the race. Stop go 30 there for Michael Thomas to disconnect from Tesh Fredriksson, which meant that there were positions up for grab, and I wouldn't call it a cheap win by any chance, but no, Michael Thomas always makes it a bit easier, but again, it's a mistake that Thomas made himself by going over the speed limits in the pits, so very well deserved. Nick Vargas finishing third in the race. We did see on the minimap there that you had a little bit of a moment on the final lap.
Yeah, no, guys. No, I spun in one of the last corners, so that was a little bit exciting. But I had a good enough gap to the guy behind, and I think it was Chris Vining in front was pulling away from me already from the beginning. So, but it was a great race. So always lovely to drive on Suzuka, great track, and yeah, apparently it worked out for me. I was contemplating to not take tires, but I did in the end, and I think I made the right decision to do that. But,
yeah, it looked like we did have some non-tire changes, finishing very high up this time around, and interesting to see that the two strategies, I would actually call them pretty equal this time around. But again, it's a matter of driving style, and if you prefer taking the tires, then you'll do that and feel a little bit safer and a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, I've also, like, between my teammates in endurance, I have a much higher consumption also, so probably my tires wear also a lot more. So yeah.
That is how it goes from time to time, but a great drive and congratulations on the podium. That actually put you nicely into contention in the championship. We were talking a little bit before the race about how the pro class, basically from a second and down to last in the pro class, anyone could potentially go up and snatch those positions. We do expect Michael Thomas, of course, running away with the championship by the end.
Yeah, I saw him catching a SD30, I think. So I was surprised a bit, but no, it's always exciting to have a close battle. So let's see what the next race will bring.
Yeah, and thank you for joining us here in the comment booth. We will just drag in the AM class race winner, Ian van der Kraan. Great race from you this time out, and with Kelsey not. Okay, let's get Kelsey in here as well. Congratulations to both of you guys on good results, but Ian, especially you with the win, this puts you in very good contention for the championship.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, it was like I said last time, I didn't have a lot of experience on this track, but I think it's become one of my favorites quite fast, especially with this result. But yeah, I had a quite a good race. Setup was feeling nice on the track. No big pileup at T1 this time, so that was great for the start of the race, of course. Yeah, felt quite happy in the car. Not much else to say on it, actually. It was just a good race.
Yeah, straight looked good, and getting into the lead of the AM class early on in the race, and then just not looking back, it didn't seem that you were that challenged there for the lead at any real points of the race. Kelsey was catching up at one point by a certain rate, and of course Steve Parker also being involved in this battle early on.
Yeah, it was. Parker scared me a bit at the halfway mark of my stint, and then I saw him suddenly disappear from my driver menu, like the timing charts, and I was like, oh, where has he gone? And then I thought, well, he's gone, so I'll go for my pit stop, fitted some new tires on, and then I noticed he wasn't anywhere to be seen behind me, so I was quite surprised by that, but managed to fix the damage in a pit stop with 30 seconds to go, put some new tires on. Yeah, not much to talk about, actually. It was just a very good race.
Yeah,
also congratulations to Kelsey for the good result again.
Yeah, speaking of Kelsey, having him in the box as well, you guys are now tied on points for the championship, if my calculations are anywhere near correct, but they should be after just 2 rounds, I must say.
Yeah. Big congratulations to Ian, man. He drove a spotless race. Really, he was on it straight from qualifying. He smashed it. Did a really good time. His race, he had a good race. Unfortunately, I got a bit caught up with a bit of trouble in the first couple of laps, but I think I managed to salvage a good comeback. It was nice fighting with Mr. King when I know he was in the lead, and I just thought that maybe there's a bit of pace because he hadn't pitted. And I thought maybe I could get in front of him and close the gap, but unfortunately, I think I pushed too hard too quickly and lost some grip and confidence in in the car itself. But all in all, it was good. Like I said, it's not one of my favorite tracks. I never fare very well here. Not very quick here either. I just find it's one of the most trickiest tracks. Apart from Laguna Seca and this together, they're probably equals in difficulty for me. But yes, looking forward to the next one. Should be fun.
It will be very fun to watch. At least carnage are expected. We're going to Oulton Park in 2 weeks' time. Speaking of tricky tracks.
Yes, that's another tricky track, and I think I better get practicing on it from tomorrow onwards, because that's another one of those tracks that are quite difficult.
I
Why
will say
did,
after.
why did you put Oulton Park? Why not something a bit more accommodating
What
for
would
my,
you would you
for
have?
my like Misano, Brands Hatch, or
Oh, that'd be boring. Would you have preferred 42 cars on Snetterton instead?
oh no, definitely not. No,
I would have liked to enjoy that, and we should also maybe try and convince Michael Thomas to drive the Jaguar there just to equal it out just a little bit in the front of the field, but it is what it is.
Yeah, no, it was it was enjoyable. I think the result was the best I could salvage at this track. So yes, Ian's made everything very, very interesting at the championship, and should be good fun, to be honest. All the
We're
way
gonna see you in Oulton Park.
I
I'm
promise.
slightly.
I promise I won't take you out.
Thank you. That was the same to you.
Let's just wait and see.
It's
No,
gonna
no,
be
no.
especially fun in our cars at Oulton Park. I
yes.
know that the Ferrari likes the bumps and the curbs a lot. And for the people who can't notice it from my voice, that's a lot of sarcasm in there. So yeah, maybe my teammate can show up near the front of the AM pack then, because he's in a Mercedes. But we'll see. We'll see.
We surely will, and that will be about in 2 weeks' time. Well, 1 week, 6 days, and 22.5 hours roughly before we go live racing there. I have been Oliver Andersen, Mr. One of Oliver. Chris Hill behind the cameras as always, and my co-commentator tonight was Frank Hopp. Good night, everyone. Goodbye, sleep well, and see you in 2 weeks' time.